Human genetics and the medical research. The genetic code allows us to study diseases at the molecular level, which is increasing our knowledge of potential preventions and treatments for diseases. Certainly, genetics has become a central part of the science of medicine. The actual science of medicine nowadays has evolved regarding this issue. But in one point of our lives, maybe we ask the following questions. How do genes cause a disease? Can gene therapy work? Can chromosomes may be modified? Or the simplest questions, can we clone something? Can we clone a gene? Can that alter the treatment? Can it alter the course of a disease such as Parkinson or Alzheimer's? In order to know that, we need to know how to manipulate the genes. Or should we? During the video, we are going to try to explain the possible answers to these questions. But first, we are going to start by saying and trying to explain what are the genes. The genes are chromosomes that contain the recipe for making a living thing. They are found in almost every cell's nucleus and are made from strands of DNA. Segments of DNA are called genes, and there are ingredients for this. Each gene adds a specific protein to the recipe. Protein build, regulate, and maintain your body. For instance, they build bones, allow muscles to move, control digestion and indigestion, and keep your heart beating. A gene can exist in many forms. They're called alleles. For example, let's say that there is one gene which determines the color of your hair. That one gene may have many forms or alleles, such as black hair, brown hair, auburn hair, red hair, blonde, streaked, etc. You inherit one allele for each gene from your mother and one from your father, meaning a set from the father and a set from the mother. Combined, each of the two alleles that you inherit for each gene, one of them, once they have been combined, may be stronger than the other one. The stronger one is called the dominant gene, and the weaker one is called the recessive gene. When the gene is dominant, it means that the physical characteristic or trait, meaning that the resemblance, codes for usually is expressed or shown in a living organism. In simpler words, the dominant gene will domain on top of the weaker one. You need only one dominant allele to express a dominant trait. You need two recessive alleles to show a recessive form of a trait. Most of our cells contain 46 chromosomes. Sperm and egg cells contain only 23 chromosomes. When the sperm and egg cells unite, the resulting, the living thing that we know as fetus, inherits half of its DNA recipe from its mother and half from its father. Two of these 46 chromosomes determine the sex of a person. A girl inherits 2 X chromosomes, one from her mother and one from her father. A boy inherits 2 chromosomes as well, except one of them is an X chromosome from his mother, and the small Y chromosome is from his father. So for a woman, it's XX, and for a guy, it's XY. To understand better this information, or why do we need it, we need to understand how this science has evolved since the beginning. We have certainly heard the word or the name Gregor Mendel. Well, Gregor Mendel was the Australian monk and is considered the father of genetics. He was born in the year 1822 to 1884 and was the first person to describe how traits are inherited from one generation to another generation. We can recall his theory where he used to investigate the pea plants. Yes, peas as in vegetables. How they evolved, how they moved, how they looked the same, and that's how he understood the texture and the color of the smoothness and discovered that traits are inherited from one parent in certain patterns. Not until the 20th century did other scientists take his ideas further. Mendel is considered to be the father, as we said before, of genetics, although his work was relatively unappreciated until the early 20th century, which is common because we now know that the most important persons or people of our history have been seriously criticized in its time, and then now we know on the light of the science that their knowledge has brought us many understanding of issues and questions that sometimes we haven't even asked before, like that, like how do genetics affect our everyday lives. So for Mendel and the Dolly sheep, science has evolved in many ways. So can that help us in our times for diseases? They certainly can. But first, we need to continue getting the knowledge and understanding that there are several ways that genetic code can be altered. Sometimes the genes are deleted or in the wrong place on a chromosome. Some pieces of genes are swapped between chromosomes. As well as the result, the gene may not work or may turn on in the wrong part of the body. Is this clear? It doesn't really sound clear, but we need to understand that the chromosomes are two sets of chains. So let's think of the chromosomes as chains. So if one of them skips a beat or overlaps the other one, it's going to become a serious issue and is going to translate on a mutation. So a point mutation would be altering the genetic code by changing the letters in the codons, the 3 simple genetic words that specify which protein to make. This can change the protein. So if the two chains are twined together in a very specific pattern and one of them overlaps, then the mutation is going to turn out to be a very clear sign of this mutation. It could be, for example, a cleft lip, or it could be the missing of a part of the body, such as a nail, or it could be your toes stuck together. That is a mutation. So drugs, vaccines, and enzyme replacements created by genetic research are already widely used to treat people for diseases. So the DNA technology increases the health care cost by providing large amounts of widely used drugs like insulin and human growth hormone. In this section, we are going to learn how the DNA works and about some of the therapies developed from genetic research. To conclude and to end this topic, do we understand the genetic DNA? Do we understand the genetic makeup as we now know it? Well, it is very difficult for a relatively normal person to understand what a genetic makeup is, how we are formed. Does this help us? Yes, it certainly does. The new strategies to learn about our DNA will definitely impact on how we see the different diseases that we are going to be getting throughout our lives.